Temiko, let's transition to the other big money mess, bankruptcy.
Yes.
So now, obviously, someone thinks they're in really, really big trouble. And when people are coming to your company, you all do specific bankruptcy counseling? Like what services do you provide? And the second part of that question is, how do people know when it's time for bankruptcy?
Really, really good question. It's probably the leading question that people have, even considering something like that. And so this is the progression that we have available. I think is very useful for that question. And the first is that we have our debt and budget counseling services. We've talked extensively about how to manage your debt and all those options. And for someone who is not quite sure if that's the road that they should be considering, then going through a debt and budget counseling session to learn about those different options first is really advantageous because first of all, that conversation is free. You're just talking to the person about what your situation is. They send you a counseling packet so that way you can make that decision on your own. And I think that that's the best service for someone who hasn't contacted an attorney. They haven't really started, reaching out and inquiring about services. They haven't got a quote or any of that stuff. They just don't know. And so I think that that's a great service to use because then the counselor can say, you don't have enough assets to pay this back. You don't have enough income to pay this on your own. You don't have enough income to go onto a debt management plan. There's nothing else left in terms of methods to repay. And so talking to an attorney would be the best next option. And that, excuse me, hearing that from a certified credit counselor, I think gives you the, okay, I am thinking the right things. This is something that I should be considering. And you don't have someone that's going to lead you to that decision, but just based on what you're facing. Now let's go to the next level. Someone who's decided, I don't have enough, and now I'm going to go ahead and take this route. We do have two services that are available that are required through the bankruptcy counseling service. You have the pre-filing counseling, which is required before they actually file. Any person who's going to go through the bankruptcy counseling, or excuse me, the bankruptcy in their state has to receive that counseling. And the purpose of that counseling is to protect the consumer. Because there's bad actors in every entity. Attorneys are no different. We don't want anyone being steered into that decision because a bad actor or bad attorney said, oh, this is great for you. This is what you should be doing when it's not. And so that level of regulation was implemented in the bankruptcy process. So anyone filing bankruptcy has to take that pre-filing bankruptcy course. That is $50. We do have a standard waiver process for those who qualify. We don't turn away anyone for not being able to afford services with us. So we have a waiver process in place. So if you do meet those income requirements, then we'd be able to waive that fee. And then you have the post-debtors education counseling, which is also $50. And I believe the first one you can take online, if I'm not mistaken. But those, again, are to help educate the consumer on how not to get back here, right? Here's the things that caused us to get in this position. Now that you've been able to take advantage of this legal instrument and kind of get a fresh start or a clean slate, if you will, then what does that road look like when I'm re-entering the credit world? What does that road look like when I face a hardship and I need to be able to fit it within my budget and be able to progress and still meet the requirements of the contracts that I sign when I say I want to borrow some money? So there's two processes, two counseling services involved in that. They have to have, they get a certificate for each one, and then they provide that to their attorney for the process.
And just so I'm clear, Tamiko, that pre-bankruptcy counseling, are you saying that that is required regardless?
It is required.
Huh.
Both the pre and post debtors education are part of the process, again, to protect consumers. And years back, it wasn't that way.
Okay.
And so unfortunately, a lot of people were taken advantage of. You think about your older community, older Americans who are just, they don't have either the support of their family or people nearby to protect them.
Right.
Uh, and so that's the reason why, it's required now so that people are not getting taken advantage of or that they maybe haven't considered that they may be able to take a different route. Some people will go through to the pre-filing step, get that education, and then decide they don't really have to take that extreme of a step. They may be able to back out and say, well, never mind, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to handle
Right.
this a different way. So
Right.
it's almost a vetting process for yourself to make sure that you're taking the right route.
And then Tamika, if you can remember this $50 course, again, like you said, the fee could potentially be waived. Takes about how long, this pre-counseling course?
Oh goodness. So you've got your online, which is self-paced, so however
Okay.
long you take, and then you have got the phone counselors that can go through the information with you. And I would say roughly an hour,
Okay.
give or take, depending on the situation, how many debts you have, how many questions you have, those
Okay.
kind of things would dictate the time as well.
Right. And ladies, just think about it. When you're thinking about making a decision as serious as bankruptcy, seems like you would want to take the time, make the investment of the time and the money too, and get some guidance, somebody who's completely objective, who has nothing to gain. You know, Tamiko, it's been very challenging for me. Working in radio, I get to interact with a lot of listeners, and I've had several people I've heard from who filed for bankruptcy, and now they cannot make their bankruptcy payments. And then
Deny.
I'm thinking to myself,
Yes.
how did they even get in this situation? How is this possible? And I'm thinking, why did they even file this type of bankruptcy? This is crazy to me. And they're just at the beginning of the process. And I have heard this several times before. And I'm like, now, how do you unwind that? You know, there are very few times where I've been stumped or I'm like, I don't even know what to tell people. So, Ani, I see you leaning in.
I would love to hear Tamiko's, because again, the same I've heard that situation, have dealt with a close friend in the exact situation and had to actually withdraw because she's like, I can't afford
Can't
the
afford the
payment,
payments. Yeah.
but still has the ding because she had already filed.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you do in those circumstances? Or how do you avoid that, really, I guess, too?
So this one's a challenging question for me to answer because, for one, it falls outside of my wheelhouse. That is a legal conversation that we definitely defer to legal professionals, because part of the process that they use is a vetting process as well to determine which instrument they are able to use according to their state. So because of those changes from state to state, and because we're not a legal entity, that's a conversation I don't enter. But what we do offer in terms of tips, right? How do we make good decisions, is to do the same thing as we do for every other major service that we take on. It's we shop around. We talk to different entities. We talk to more than one attorney. I don't just talk to one, but I talk to five. I want to talk about your track record and your experiences with people who are dealing with the things that I'm dealing with. I'm going to ask you specific questions about the concerns that I have, i.e., Ani, your point of this is what I don't want to wind up being in. What does that road look like for me? What are the potential risks of being in a position where I'm not able to make my payment, and what happens after that? So using the professional that you're paying for, they work for you,
Right.
and asking them those specific questions and making sure that you understand that you are hiring them. They have to earn your business, and they have to be able to answer your questions and work with you the way that you need them to. Now, they can't bend the law, but they can give you impacts for actions that you're going to take. It is their job to give you your rights and responsibilities according to what instrument they're going to recommend.
And Tamiko, you know, when I hear you say that, what I often think about how, because people are in such a money mess, and because they are, you know, they're scared, they're embarrassed. I see people not asking the questions, not wanting to do the work. They're just trying to hide and get it done real quick and just taking whatever people say instead of saying, you know what, I know I didn't intentionally get here. I know I'm in trouble. However, I'm still demanding and requiring good service. You know, I still need to know what my options are. You are not a bad person. You know, you're not a stupid person. You just, again, you're having some life happen. Take the time. You need the confidence to go head on and interact with these people, ask the questions, and carry yourself confidently through these challenging situations, not with your tail tucked, and afraid and ashamed. Because again, it is devastating to see people who are gone down this road and now they're in a bigger money mess than where they even started from. Obviously, that's not the intention or the goal here. Anything else bankruptcy wise that you think is important? Anybody who is watching now or may tune into this a little later on that they need to be thinking about or considering if they're in potentially heading towards bankruptcy?
Yes, I would just say that if you are considering bankruptcy and you haven't quite made that decision, you're concerned about, what that would look like, give us a call, and you don't have to go through the bankruptcy counseling session to get that information, right? So I want to remind us that, when you want to get, excuse me, I had to clear my throat. When you want to get information, that you should use your network, right? The fact that we have a free service that can actually go through and see if you're even in a position where you need to consider that, would be a really great way to navigate that road if you're just not sure. Because those of that come to us and they've already chosen the bankruptcy attorney that they're working with, they've already chosen that route. It's a lot easier just to go through and say, yeah, I just want to get my certificate. I'm going to move forward. But if you're just not sure, just talk to us for a debt and budget counseling service. So that way they can actually tell you what kind of options that you have. And so also, one thing that I wanted to mention is that any entity that you worked with that's providing educational services, that's actually regulated by the Executive Office of the United States Trustee. It's called EOUST. And they do regulate and approve agencies to authorize these types of educational services. So if you are going to request an attorney when you talk to us, we're going to refer you to a legal aid in your area or your state bar association. So if you're just trying to consider, that option, we do have steps that you can take so that you're sure about, moving forward with that before just jumping right in.
Temiko, I'm really grateful for you being so generous with your time and, the information. That's the thing about a money mess. I know how painful they are, but a lot of times I think people are in so much pain because they're alone. It's new to them versus someone like you who has seen more money messes than you could ever count. And there's a way to navigate through them, and you can navigate through them efficiently. But again, you have to reach out. You have to get the help. You've got to get the counseling. You've got to get the support, and you have to be ready to execute. Execution is everything when it comes to any type of mess. But you all know you can't just sit around and wait. You've got to get moving. So before we close, anything else you'd like to share with us, Temiko?
I love that you said write things down, folks. Every goal that you have, any financial goal, even if it's to just get out of a hardship and be in a more stable position, it's kind of like I think of when you go to the doctor. When you go to the doctor, you have your checkup. You have things that they're going to look at just for every patient that they speak to. But until you open your mouth and ask questions and be okay with making that doctor stay a little bit longer to ask your 5 more questions because this is dealing with my health, then you have to be unconcerned, unemotional, and information centered. It's the biggest thing I could probably take from my husband. He's just such a very logical person, that if you write things down and you start to really bullet out what you want, then it helps that road become a little easier, because then you're going to start documenting, what are my questions? What are my concerns? What am I afraid of? Because then we can turn that fear into, what's the hardship? What's the concern? What's the item that I need to get in front of so that I can navigate that change? So I think writing things down, not being afraid to reach out and talk to a professional. You guys have my information. You guys can call me all day. It's fine. I might get a voicemail every now and then, but using your network of professionals is really, really key when you're navigating this, because when you try to do it alone and you don't use those networks of professionals, then you're only looking through tunnel vision. You're not able to see the full picture. So when you write things down, you ask those questions, pick up the phone, don't be afraid to call. and shopping around for the people that work with you. When you're talking to your servicers and your creditors, writing down names. When you're talking to the mortgage company, they have one person, it's called a SPOC. They're going to work with you and work on your file. So I think that communication is key. Writing things down is key. Timelines are key. Not being afraid is key.
And my takeaways are what Temiko talked about being very proactive, before you are late. As soon as, if it's June and your job's last day is on July 31st, about calling your creditors literally this week. Like, as soon as you know something, literally communicate before you get in trouble. It changes everything. The number of options that you have is going to completely change. And now if you're already behind, still go ahead on and begin to communicate. So whether you're communicating with your creditors directly, contacting a Money Management International, check out nfcc.org so you understand what that means. But I want you every day to have some committed time to beginning to dig out of this mess. And then also manage your expectations. Know that this can take a while. If you're looking for the quick fix, that's what they're promoting and advertising to you. You need to stay away from that because it's not real. It doesn't happen that way. So I want you just to manage your expectations and know that you could be dealing with this for months, if not longer period than that, in order to get on the other side of this. So Temiko, thank you so much again for being so generous with your time and being with us.
Thank you for having me.
For all of you who tuned in today, who are going to watch this later, also, we appreciate you. Thank you for interacting with us in the Thank Me Later True Few community. We'd love to hear from you. We'd like to know what other topics you want us to talk about, what will be helpful for you as you're on your money journey, because this is a place for us as women, us in particular, as Black women, to get what we need. No more hiding, no more pretending. No more hiding behind these degrees and all this money we make and knowing that we are struggling, trying to figure it out. You make more money doesn't mean you know what the heck you're doing. They do not go hand in hand. So come on out, get the help you need. We can navigate this together. So thank you all for tuning in and we appreciate y'all. Have an amazing day. Look, Temiko, it's still morning over there. You
Yes.
have a full day.
Absolutely. I'm getting started.
Over there in the state of Washington. Again, thank you for being so generous with your time, and we'll make sure that your company's information and your information is within our network.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure speaking with all of you.
Okay. Thank you all. Have a great day, everybody.